Hey folks, Ace TCG here, and in today's video we have another One Piece TCG video, and today we're going to be covering one of the decks that I've been running in tournaments at locals. This is the Roanoa Zoro deck from, well, this came out in OP01, but it is updated to OP02. So this is my second One Piece video, so yeah, I hope you enjoy, and bear with me and I'll talk through what I've learned. This is pretty much going to be bread and butter. There's nothing like heavily changed. There's a few nuances, but what you might gain from this is maybe a little tad bit about like why I decided to do some of the plays, and that might help you in your actual decision making. So of course we have the 10 Don that you're going to go with, which is cool. I only managed to grab 7 of these so far, so I'm hoping to get them. There was an Altar Shanks one, I think it was Shanks. I think this is OP01 and Shanks came out OP02. I kind of like the idea of just having 10 of the same ones currently, but it's nice that these are interchangeable for all of your decks. So I feel like once you get 10 of the ones that you like, you can just use that same 10. But let's crack on into the actual list. So I'll just fly through some of the abilities. I don't want to heavily sit on them. But this is Zoro, your leader. He has a fantastic ability of Don X1, so you put a Don underneath him. And again, it's the ability of your turn, all of your characters gain 1000 power, which is great for a deck where you're focusing on rush, like this is. He has 5000 base power, and you get that lovely 5 life, which is critical in this game. It helps with your survivability. One thing that a lot of people don't keep in mind when playing against this, especially if you're new to playing against this, is that even though it is a rush deck and it can be very scary, it is also quite weak to big hits back because it's going to run out of resources. I'm using a lot of my resources, my tempo to play things out to try and kill you. So having that 5 life means that you can stop your opponents from like really trying to punch you back. So next up will be a card that you're definitely used to seeing if you've seen a red deck before. This is Nami. It's one of the best cards for trying to again get resource to your hand. It has the unplayability of look at the top 5, you grab a straw hat from them, and then you get to put the cards to the bottom of the deck in any order. That bottom of deck thing can come up if you don't really have many like any shuffling abilities in this game. So if you're going to play a long ass game, it's important that you make sure you put them in order. It's just a good mindset to keep in. But yeah, this card's fantastic. Definitely running a solid 4 of. It's one of the cards that you really like hard mulligan to try and find. You try and hard find Nami, or you try and hard find Dadan, because you're trying to get resources to your hand as soon as possible. So yeah, definitely for Nami. I think you can also get this in the starter deck, so it's a rare in OP01, and if you haven't managed to pick them up, then you can get them in the starter deck, I think that's true. But worst case scenario, Card Market is going to have them for pennies. Even though it's a staple, there's a lot of availability for these cards. Next up is one of our 2-cost counters. It's Otama. This card is, again, another 4 of in the majority of red decks right now. It has the unplayability of give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 2000 power during this turn. So there are cards like Nico Robin or Vista that are going to help remove your opponent's cards. Having cards like Otama to reduce power means that Vista or Robin's ability is going to be able to hit bigger targets or more impactful cards. So definitely good, but also it's a 2+ counter. So having a 2+ counter, a +2 counter, sorry, that has a really great effect is nice. Because of how the deck plays, majority of the time, I'll find myself actually just keeping these in hand until I need to remove something that's sticky or going to cause me a lot of issues. Because, like I said, we can be vulnerable to higher powered attacks, things with double attack, something that can really beat you up is, for example, the Odin, where it can just restand and whack you in the head for mucho power. One of our 1-cost 2+2 counters is Makino. It has the activate main ability of you may rest this character to give up to one of your red characters with a cost of 1 plus 3000 power. So we have a lot of 1 costs in this deck because we're an aggro rush deck. Again, very nice, similar to Otama. I'll keep this in my hand a lot of the time to be defensive with it. But another thing to keep in mind with this deck is you're going to have a lot of rested cards, and one thing that you're going to need to learn while playing through this deck is that there are actually like positives to your opponent attacking your characters because they're not attacking you. So as long as you can manage your resources and manage what you want to be attacked, that's very important. Like turn 1, if you grab a Nami, and turn 2 you're able to swing with the Nami, a lot of the time, or 99% of the time, I'm not going to then be defending the Nami. It has a 2k defensive base, but it's doing that offensive whack that I want to see when I'm playing my 1-drops down. Speaking of offensive whacks, we have another 1-drop here. This is Sunny-kun. This is from the promo pack for the film. Yeah, if you can get your hands on these, definitely worth doing. Having a one drop, which is 3k, is just so very nice because you have ways to give 3ks to one drops in the deck. Your leader's going to give 1k to everything that's on the board, which automatically makes the Sunny a 4k, and just putting another Don underneath him immediately makes him 5, hitting most leaders bar Whitebeard. So yeah, definitely important. Another +1 counter in the deck, which is something to keep in mind, definitely. A nice just all-rounder, really. It helps you get to places, and usually what happens is you'll slam this down and people treat it like it's got a disease, so they'll want to get rid of it, meaning that you can actually distract them with the beautiful Sunny-kun and then play other high-risk targets. Next we have another one drop. I know we've covered a lot, but we have Magara here. So some lists, this is where like the difference in like what people are running is. Some will only run like 3 Sunny-kun or 2 Magara, or some lists are even running like 4 Magara. I like 3. 3's a good number. It's a +1 counter, has the on-play ability of up to one of your red characters with a cost of 1 gain +3 power during the turn. So the only reason I'm not running that as a 4 is because sometimes I'm rushing with 2 costs, 3 costs, and Magara doesn't always come up when that is the situation. And I'd rather have, for example, the Makino in hand, which is, I have one card that's going to buff. Having another card that's buff is nice, but when I already have other ways to do that and other ways to add impact, 4 can be a little bit too much at times, especially when you're starting to run out of resources, especially against a really good opponent. But the card is fantastic. I've definitely been tempted to run 4 at times because you just want to go, ugh, unga bunga. But 3 is a really nice number in my opinion. Finishing our 1 costs, we have Gordon. This is from the film Gordon, from the film promo pack. Yes, the same one from the Sunny-kun. Again, a lot of lists are running this at 4. I ran it at 4 and it feels pretty smooth. The only reason I've dropped it down is 1. It doesn't provide any defensive power, so as you can see, it has no +1 power on the side, so it's kind of just a deck card in hand. And also I find myself hyper fixating on removal when I have cards like Gordon or Atama in the deck, so I cut one of the Gordons in order to then still be able to use the 3 as a nice resource for removal, but also kind of just remind myself when I'm playing what my actual game plan is, which is, again, that unga bunga, I'm going to punch you in the face. But Gordon is really, really nice with, again, the likes of Vista. The Gordon and Otama into a Vista combo is disgusting because you can get rid of something for 8,000 or less, which is, yeah, just really, really great. So nice to have the 3 of. A really good play with the Gordon is to put enough power on it, so you can use like the Magura, use your Roanoa Zoro ability, Makino, to make it enough to hit your opponent's leader, and then you can use Gordon's ability to put it to the bottom of the deck, and then you can give something minus as well. So you get an offensive and a board control ability just from one drop, which is really, really nice. Now, Brook has to be one of my favorite cards in this deck. It feels dirty when I use it. It feels just like I can't believe that, like, I feel like not enough people are talking about it, but it just feels like perfect tempo. Turn 1, you've been able to play Nami. If you're going first, you can only play one thing, or Dadan, whatever. And then turn 2, being able to put first, putting a Don underneath your leader if you're at 3, for example, if you went first, and then swinging with your leader, and then playing Brook to put 2 under whatever else you have on board means that whatever it is that you have is going to then be able to hit leader. So not only are you filling up your board, but you're again doing what your deck wants to do, which is providing a punch. Also, Brook is 3k, so it's very, very easy for Brook to be able to reach the numbers that you need to reach to be able to, again, smack your opponent in the head. And it's a +2 counter, which is just another benefit to Brook. So it just feels great. 2 cost with so much high tempo and just really puts together what Rorono needs, Mr. Zoro needs. Now, this is a card that I've obviously mentioned a few times when talking through like cards that you want to say. It's one of the cards that I mentioned that is important to kind of hard mulligan for if you don't have Nami. This is Curly Dadan. So it's a 2-drop with +1 counter and on-play ability of look at the top 5 cards of your deck, add up to 1 red character with a cost of 1 to your hand, then place the rest at the bottom of the deck. So you can play Dadan, and then you can choose any of these targets, and you're getting it to your hand. Remember what I said at the start of the video about how this deck is more of a managing your resources and then going unga bunga. You need to make sure that you are able to add cards back to your hand when your opponent's removing your cards. So Dadan is definitely a hard 4 of. Really, really nice card. Came out in OP02 and has definitely helped Zoro to be more viable as a concept in deck. Speaking of Zoro, now we go on to our 3 drops. We have 4 Rush Zoro, so it's just a 3-drop 5k that has Rush. With this Zoro, your leader ability, it's going to make it 6k. So for 3, you can drop this and then just go 6 at face, which feels really nice, and it can help you like wrap games up at some times, especially if you only have like a 2-cost like Gordon or something, or a Magura on field, and you'd have to put underneath 3 Don just to make it the same number as this Zoro. It's nice to just get another body and go rush, especially because it doesn't have any like plus on it. It's not going to help you defensively at all. But one thing I will keep in mind about this Zoro is I don't know I have actually done it yet. I don't play this card on 3. It's kind of like anti-tempo to play this on 3 because it blocks you from doing other things that you want to do in your early game. If you play Zoro on 3, you can't put you can't put a Don underneath your Zoro, you can't play Dadan, you can't play Nami, you can't play Brook. You cannot fill your board with all of these cards that you want to be seeing early, and then you just have a beat stick which your opponent is definitely going to hyper focus, because for some reason as soon as you put this down, everyone's like, must kill Zoro. So yeah, I play this on turn 5, sometimes turn 7, or when I'm going for a game and I want that extra punch. It's really nice tempo to add to your aggression, because there'll be times where your opponent's wiped your board and you can still just go, huzzah, I actually do have an attacker, drop a card or take a life, which is definitely what we want in Zoro. Other 3 drops, this to me is one of the best cards that's been released for Red. Especially, I was going to say just an OP02, but I think full stop. I definitely think this is a better card than Nico Robin, which we have here, because it has on-play potential. It has an actual, like, it feels like a hand trap from Yu-Gi-Oh! At times. Where it's like, okay, cool, I can deal with it. I can Gordon you, I can Otama you, and then I can just get rid of one of your blockers. The important thing with this is that you have to remember when using this that you are not a control deck. So although it can be really nice tempo to remove something that has like 5k, if that card actually has no importance to you other than the fact that you're afraid that it's going to attack you, just ignore it. That's one of the positives of this game, is that like just having things on the board genuinely isn't as scary as it is in other games. Like, you have to deal with 90% of the things in other games that are played. In this game, you could leave something on the board and just completely ignore it. If someone drops a 5k body, if that's all they have, that's fine. They're 90% of the time going to use that body to swing at your cards that are rested, and you shouldn't care, because you should be using ways to gain other resources. You should be playing around things like that. You should keep that into your mind. So using this to get rid of big things that are going to be very annoying to you, like blockers, is really important, because that is dealing with something that is going to be, sorry for the fun, a blocker for you, a blocker to you to get to your win con, which is Unga Bunga, smack you in the head enough times until you just have no life left, and I put 10 Don under Zoro and swing at you for 15 or 16 with somebody else. Yeah, Vista, 10 out of 10, yes. Nico Robin, similar to Vista, but 1 has more power, but sadly 2 has to be on attacking, and you have to commit a Don to her, which can actually be annoying, because the benefit of having 4k is kind of wiped out about the fact that you have to use a Don. So having 4k would be like, oh sweet, it's actually 5 because of Zoro, but then when you have to put a Don, it means that it has to be 6. So I'm only running 2. And the reason I'm running 2 again is like, I'm looking at what the current meta is, what are my matchups. Against green, this card is just dog. Like, it's going to get rested, it's going to get removed, it's going to give you so much stress. I would much always prefer to have Vista against like green, against, what other decks am I thinking? Against Whitebeard, again, like, Nico can get rid of blockers, yeah, sure, but they also run Vista, and they also run like cards that can like get rid of your stuff. So yeah, Vista I think is currently better in this format. Nico overall could potentially be the better card in the long run, but while there's removal and rest strategies running rampant in the meta, I would go for Vista, because I can deal with this now. Nico is, I'm at risk, and I don't like having cards that are at risk. So next we kind of have like a slot that you can like interchange things with. I think there is a little bit of leniency in lists, and it just comes down to preference. So in the 2-card slot that I'm using, I have 2 Yuta. So again, you could be running the 4th Gordon, or you could be running the 4th Magara. You could have other techs that you're running, but I like Yuta. One of the techs that you'll see a lot is Monkey D. Luffy, the Rush one from the starter deck for Red. This card's fantastic if you want to add to your like Unga Bunga strat, because you can just ignore blockers and then get a swing at. But for me, one of the biggest, what I was trying to look for in the slot where I'm trying to be like, okay, how can I add to my deck, is how can I add resources? How can I add with like that potential to deal with issues. So being able to play Yuta and then grab a 3 or less red character other than Yuta from your drop, which is everything you see in front of you, is just great. Going Yuta to grab Vista, playing Vista with the likes of any of your other combos, like the combo with the Gordon and the Otama, means that you can deal with, for example, like an 8-drop kit. Like if you have stuff that's really scaring you out, like, yeah, that's going to help you, and that could potentially help you win the game from there on out. Like, so it's important to me. I like the Yuta right now, but it's still in testing. Try it out, see what you prefer. A lot of people are going with Monkey D. Luffy because it is just a good card. This is just a tech option, and yeah, try what you like. Next, we have the just absolute, like, for me, this is more of a win con than the Unga Bunga strat. I played somebody in locals and got 3 of these out over time because he was playing a Vankov, and it was just like, and yeah, this card is great. So if you don't know what this is Edward Newgate. This came out again in OP02. It has the on-playability of up to one of your leaders gains 2k power, and then you can't add cards from your life to your hand. You're not doing that bottom bit anyway, but making Zoro 7k is beautifully defensive. And then it has a 10k body, which is terrifying, and the ability to put 2 Don underneath it, and then when attacking, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 3 or less. So you have basically Nico Robin's ability built into Newgate as well, but when you put the 2 under and you have 1 under Zoro, it's a 13k beater, and that is what's terrifying. So yeah, definitely 4 of. Some lists I've seen running 3. I'd say 4. Its price is going down, so it's becoming a lot more accessible. I've seen some going for like £10, £8 around the thing. Check out Card Market, it's even cheaper there. So yeah, definitely I would say run 4 of. It might seem counterintuitive to run 4 9 costs in a deck what's running like 2 at max, like 2 5 or like 4 costs, and then everything 3 or lower. But this is what's going to help you like counter that I've run out of resource strategy, because it gives you like a skip a turn ability. A lot of people don't like skip a turn abilities. I think this is one that helps with what the deck wants to do, which is again Unga Bunga, and helps you get to your finisher. And then we have a little bit of removal. I'm running 4 Gum Gum Jet Pistol in this list. A lot of lists again are running like 3 of this. I like 4 because right now in the meta there's a lot of problematic cards that can deal with what we're trying to do as a deck, so I like the 4. One thing to keep in mind, again, similar to what I said when you're using your Vista, you're using your Nico Robin, use this to target cards that are actually going to cause you issues. Using this as a tempo drop, as long as you have a lot of resources, is viable, but I prefer to only use this when it's like, okay, that's problematic, let's get rid of it. And then you also have that trigger ability that's going to activate its main effect, and sometimes you just get a nice little snipe that's going to help you gain the tempo advantage. And as soon as you have the tempo advantage and you can keep it, oh boy, you best believe Mr. Zoro right here is going to help you win the game. So if you don't know what it does, it just main KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 6,000 power or less. But again, when we have cards like Gordon or Tama that are going to help you get to 9k, going to help you get to 8k quite easily. Yeah, Jet Pistol, very good. I like it as 4 of. If you don't, switch it up, put something else in. But yeah, for now, that is the deck profile. Things might change slowly depending on what we face on. This deck has some weird matchups against the meta. Like, it can really struggle sometimes against Mr. Eddie Newgate because it's just got a 6k base, and this deck is dealt to basically Unga Bunga at 5k. So keep that in mind. You could look at options to help you deal with that. Some lists I've seen running like the 2-cost Sanji, because that gains a bunch of power, helps you gain a card from your life, so that you can have more resources, because Mr. Eddie Newgate is gonna Unga Bunga your face very soon, and you're on a clock against it. So keep that in mind. Try it out. Let me know how you get on, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks.